Okay, here we go. Part 5. Hang on, people. Forgot that.
Moving around. At some point, did Mr. Floyd kind of stop actively moving around and kicking, things like that?
I think when that occurred, I think I was already, most of my back was already kind of away.
Could you hear?
See, he probably should have said, although my back was to it, I don't know when that occurred, but watching the video, I do know that it did occur at some point.
Hear him saying anything differently about, hey, I'll cooperate or anything to that effect?
I wasn't like focused on what he was saying at that time.
What were you focused on?
Trying to communicate with those guys, and also paying attention to traffic and the crowd.
So the crowd, if we could just talk about that, you a couple times referred to that crowd as hostile. What is it they were saying to you that made you think they were, or made you believe they were being hostile towards you?
Good sign is usually they start cursing at us.
Okay. Anything else specific that they were saying to you?
So he's trying to get that his characterization of a hostile crowd, they weren't really hostile. He was seeing things that weren't there. He could have been paying attention and helping Floyd, but instead, he was intentionally trying to ignore that and make it seem like the crowd was hostile. That's the little loop they're going to try to go there.
As far as what they were saying, like conversation, having conversation.
They were yelling at you. And
yeah, they're saying,
officers.
yeah, get off him, get off his neck.
Oh, he said get off the neck. Now they're going to say, well, when they said get off the neck, did you look to see if he was on the neck? Did you think that was odd? Did you? Here we go.
Get him.
Suggesting what?
Check
to
on.
you?
Yeah.
Check on him. Did you do that?
That was not my job.
Okay. So no.
No.
Okay.
Did you do that? Non-responsive. That was not my job. Did you do it? No. So that was a no. So now he just admitted he did not check on it, even after the crowd said they should check on it. And he's saying he didn't see it because he was paying attention to the crowd. But the crowd was hostile. Why were they saying check on the guy on the ground? How is that hostile?
Is the crowd yelling at you and basically all the officers to check on him, to get off him? Was that them being hostile, or was that them trying to alert your attention that something was going on with Mr. Floyd?
Ah, good question.
How did you take that?
Several times they came onto the street.
Okay.
So, and I had to tell them several times to get back on the street. And at one point, one of I think it was a kid or something, came on the street, and then I tell him to back off, and he ends up pushing me. I'm kind of pushing him back on the street.
Pushing him back.
Sidewalk, and he ends up pushing me. So that, to me, that's kind of escalating the act a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
The crowd was hostile because they were failing to keep their distance. They were encroaching. They were yelling. I wasn't listening to what they're saying. I was watching their hands and worried about what they were going to do. So I don't know what they said or what they could have said. They said a lot of things. I don't remember. I wasn't really paying attention, to be honest. I was more worried about if they were going to turn violent versus just verbally aggressive.
So then the decision is made to have EMS come step it up to code 3?
Yeah, at some point, I asked chronology. I don't recall exactly where it's at, but I do remember asking Lane that ambulance coming and what code, and he told me it was 2, and then I wanted to hear code 3 because the environment that was occurring in the hostile crowd. And
okay. Did the code 3 response have anything to do with Mr. Floyd's change in disposition?
See, now they're going to... See, before you said you didn't know if he was on the neck, and you didn't know that he had stopped breathing. And you heard the crowd say that, but you said you were too focused on the crowd. Yet, you asked for the ambulance to be upgraded. Was it because of his thing? And now if he admits right here that it was because of his change in behavior and I was worried about him and blah, 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 dude, they're going to get hit. They're going to tear apart his previous statements.
I don't recall.
I don't recall is a good answer. They can't lock you down on that.
I guess the events of when I believe when I was talking to lane. I believe that Floyd was still alive and talking.
Did you observe, though, a change in his demeanor from when you first got there till paramedics got there?
Say he's already said, his attorney ought to be like, you already answered that. He said he was focused on the crowd. Why are you re-asking that? Anytime you start getting re-asked questions in different ways, they're trying to trick you into admitting something so you change your statement so they can say you lied or impeach your previous statement. It's very tough to stay on top of people if you haven't got the experience and you haven't been caught a bunch of times to know what they're doing and how they're doing it and to cover your butt. This officer isn't that experienced. The investigator's pretty good.
I would say the majority of the time I wasn't looking at Floyd. Right? I'm just primarily focused on the crowd and the traffic.
Was the crowd letting you know that there was a change in Mr. Floyd's disposition? What were they telling you?
They were saying that he wasn't moving.
Do you have any concerns about that? Not
yeah.
the crowd, but Mr. Floyd.
I was concerned with the crowd. I mean, I would hope that the other officers would do their job and check on it.
This would have been a good time for him to say, you know what? The primary officers dealing with him and going hands-on had a much better observation. They had a better feel, and they were more in control to deal with Mr. Floyd. I was focusing on the crowd and their hostile yellings and their encroachment on the crime scene and trying to keep them off me. So I'm not real sure and really didn't care what they were saying, to be honest.
You trusted in the other three to take care of Mr. Floyd, and you took care of the crowd.
Correct.
Okay. So when the medics get there, what do they assess him?
That part I'm not looking at the medics at all. I know the ambulance is behind me because
this is where the attorney, if he was paying attention, would say he already testified or gave you a statement earlier that he didn't even know the ambulance had loaded him up and he had to be tapped on the shoulder after he was already loaded up and told. So obviously he didn't see. Can you move on to the next question? I think he's already answered that. That would have been a good time for the attorney to pop in.
They come up behind me, but I'm not aware of what at that time what they're doing because I'm not looking at them.
With that crowd.
Now, I don't know if I put that in a camera or not, but the attorney said he's keeping his mask on because his mom is in hospice and she may be dying right now. When they first came in, that's what the attorney said. So for the attorney to be charging this guy for paying attention, my guess is this attorney's thinking about his mom probably a little more than the case while this is going on. Is that enough to say it was ineffective counsel? I don't know. But the attorney did say, I'm keeping my mask on. I've got to go visit my mom. She's in hospice right now. She might be dead or dying while we're doing this. He said something to that effect at the beginning of this interview.
There, it sounds, and we've all seen some videos from it. It seems like it was with that crowd.
Aware of what at that time what they're doing because I'm not looking at them.
With that crowd there, it sounds, and we've all seen some videos from it. It seems like it was a little chaotic. Did you ever call for additional officers to assist you guys?
I did not.
Yeah.
Oh. So, officer, let me get this straight. You were so worried about the crowd. You're in a hostile area. It's a gang. You know it's a bad area. And you never called for more units? It couldn't have been that bad, could it? Good question by the interviewer.
But the medics get there, and then do you see it when they roll him on the side, Mr. Floyd? Do you see?
See, he keeps going back to get him to admit that he saw something. Because he's already gave a statement and basically testified that he did not see them load, and he didn't even know he was loaded till he was tapped on the back. And this investigator, which is doing a good job, he keeps going back. And if he gets to admit one time, yeah, I did see him start CPR, or I did, oh, so you did see him, because earlier you said you didn't see anything. They're going to get you if you talk.
Mr. Floyd at that time?
I spent my majority of the time looking at the crowds. I didn't know when they...
Oh, I'd have followed up. Well, I understand you spent the majority of the time, but you didn't spend all your time looking at a crowd because you just said majority. You didn't say all. And if you weren't looking at the crowd all the time, what else were you looking at? Didn't you glance back at Mr. Floyd? That would have been a good follow-up from the investigator.
See them roll him on his side?
I don't recall seeing that.
Okay. How about when they get him up on the stretcher? Do you
I
make any observations?
I didn't see that. Recall seeing that part either.
Okay. Do you know if any weapons or anything were found on Mr. Floyd by
Not that
officers?
I'm aware of.
How about after the fact? Did you learn about any weapons that
I
were
did
found?
not learn of any weapons.
Okay. The vehicle that he was in, did you search that car at all?
I did not.
Did Officer King or Officer Lang take a peek at it in your presence?
I don't know if they did or they didn't. You'd probably have to ask them on what they did. I don't want to testify to what they did because I don't know.
I don't. I think they might have just locked the doors. I'm not sure if they actually searched the vehicle or not.
Okay. Did you have any injuries sustained? How about, did any of the other officers in your presence complain of any potential injuries?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that you're aware of? Okay. Did you see the...
Oh, man. That's a pretty good question because I'm assuming if you have a 240-pound guy that's actively resisting and fighting and you're using all his force and you're kneeling because you can't control him and nobody had injuries, man, that was a little slide question, but that's pretty important because now they're going to say no officers had injuries. You said you didn't know. None of the officers called for an ambulance. None of them needed medical attention. None of them said, man, that guy was really big. He hurt my shoulder. He made me pull a muscle. So were you really fighting with him or were you just being mean because he was a black man and you wanted you wanted your kicks for the day?
The counterfeit bill at any point later on in the night?
I think
the alleged counterfeit bill, I guess.
I think Officer King had like a, I'm not sure if that's the specific bill, but he had like a bill that he was, I'm assuming.
Did it look phony to you?
I didn't.
You didn't see it?
Yeah, he was.
Okay.
I never looked at it.
All right.
I just saw it from a distance.
Understood. Okay, so the first sergeant that then shows up is Sergeant Pfluger, is that correct?
Correct.
Is he your sergeant?
Yes.
Okay. What information did you tell Sergeant Pfluger?
See, you see how you can get multiple statements in one statement? Now, I've already asked you what you said. Then I ask you different things. Now I'm going to ask you what you told the sergeant. Because if any of those are different, I'm going to get you.
If any.
I didn't brief him anything, or I didn't brief him or anything as far as the incident.
Were you present when somebody briefed the sergeant?
I think I was there. I wasn't paying attention. I actually went to the squad car just to check on his status, any updates, just to see any remarks, updates as far as Floyd's status.
Were you concerned that Mr. Floyd was
obviously
in danger?
Yeah.
Oh, so you were concerned. Why were you concerned? Because you said you weren't paying attention. Why were you concerned? Well, because I saw him doing CPR, and that's usually not a good thing.
Death or something? Okay.
I was concerned of status.
Okay. Well, when you say obviously, why is that obvious?
I mean, obviously, you don't want you don't want people dying, or I don't wish death upon people.
So did you suspect that something bad was happening there at the scene when the paramedics came?
Did you see him do CPR or did you not see him? If you saw him, when did you see him? Because you told me you weren't paying attention, you didn't see him. Man, this investigator's good. I like him.
I realized that this might have been because a big incident when the fire department showed up, and they're.
Why would that be a big incident? Fire department doesn't show up unless it's a big incident?
Say they're here to help the ambulance.
Okay.
And generally when they show up, the ambulance needs help with whatever medical procedure, like CPR or something.
So when the ambulance left and the fire department showed up asking where the ambulance was, you put two and two together that this was a more significant call than maybe what you thought. Is it accurate or not accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so now you just locked him down. The only reason that he was concerned about Floyd was because the fire department showed up. It had nothing else to do with what he saw or what he heard. It was only that. So he's kind of locked him down to that. If that changes at any time, or they can prove that that's not true with any previous statements or audio recordings or anything, they got him.
After learning about, well, let me see here. So Officer Lane's on the ambulance, as far as you know.
Later on, I find out.
You found out he was.
I figure out that he was ambulance when they dropped him off.
So before Sergeant Pfluger gets there, it's just you, Officer Chauvin, Officer King, and Officer Chang?
Yes.
All right. What's the discussion that happens there amongst you guys?
Now I'm going to get another statement, because I'm going to get you to say what other people said and what you knew and how you knew it and how they knew it and did you agree. Here we go.
The discussion I mainly have and recall just having it was with Chang, just letting him know that what's going on. Just make sure you do a report.
Okay.
Just because he didn't do too much.
Yeah. Is your body camera on this whole time, or do you deactivate it?
I think at that time we were just standing around, so it was deactivated.
You deactivated it?
The scene had already been code for, and we've been standing by for several minutes.
All right. Did Officer King share with you kind of an overview of what happened before you guys?
He asked him if his was deactivated. I wonder if the two rookies deactivated theirs. I mean, normally there's a red light so cops know when they're being recorded. And usually when you're going to talk freely, everybody looks at each other and go, anybody got a camera on? Anybody got a recording on? Etc.
Got there? You and Officer Chauvin got there?
I didn't talk to him as far as what happened. My only interaction with him was when he was talking as if they were going to just clear the scene like it's kind of like another call.
Okay.
And saying that they were just going to leave the car there. And I kind of, at that point, I don't think, due to experience, I don't think he realized the gravity of the situation.
Right.
So I kind of broke it down for him like, no, we're not leaving the scene and we're not leaving this car here. There's two male and female, I think, that were there, and it seemed like as they were leaving, it seemed like they wanted to come back to the car.
So you were giving some instruction to Officer King.
Oh, now you're giving instruction, because earlier you testified you weren't the primary. Did that change? What happened to the primary? Why are you now allowed to do this, but you couldn't intervene when you saw him with his knee on his neck? All going to come together later when it crashes down on you because you talked to the cops. Government is not your friend. When they say that they're there to help, it's a lie.
About what? The proper procedure.
What the proper procedure, because I didn't want the integrity of evidence to possibly disappear and leave the department, looking like it. We're trying to cover it up.
And as one of the veteran officers on the scene.
Oh, see, when he starts calling you veteran officer, he's setting you up on why you didn't take action. Look, I'm not saying, if it sounds like that I'm saying this is a bad officer and he's lying and he's manipulating, that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to show you how government is going to be able to manipulate and play and use everything you say against you and twist it and make it sound like what you didn't mean. I think this guy's being pretty honest, and I think he's trying to recall a major incident that's probably gave him a lot of grief, that he's been arrested for, that he's jailed, that he's facing felony charges and life in prison. I mean, I think he's probably a little nervous, and he may not get everything right. That's the problem with giving statements. You never get everything right. You forget some things. You remember things a little differently. You make misstatements that may or may not be intentional, and then they're used against you.
You saw that as your kind of responsibility to take control of that?
Yes.
Oh, so you saw that as your responsibility to control, but when Floyd was getting killed and stopped moving and the crowd was saying he would stop breathing and you're killing him, you didn't feel that was your responsibility. Have I got that right, officer? Man.
Or provide some instruction.
Give him what he should do.
Okay.
So I told him that we weren't going to, that we were not going to do that. You shouldn't do that. You need to call a supervisor and have them make the decision.
Any reason why that instruction and advice that you gave to Officer King after the fact? Any reason why you didn't offer that kind of same leadership advice earlier when they were?
See, me and this dude who's interviewing him is right in line. Of course he's going to freaking slam him with it.
Struggling with Mr. Floyd?
I didn't have that enough information.
Okay.
In my opinion.
When you learned that Mr. Floyd had died, what did you think?
Oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to die. It was kind of a somber moment, especially for me. My heart kind of sank.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is good that this guy, this is what's called jury appeal. This guy is being seen as a person. He's seeing sorrow and pain. He's not being seen as evil, wanting to kill black people. So this is good for this officer to admit and say this. Sometimes you get officers that want to be macho and be like, hey, you know what? People die. He took the medicine, or he took all the drugs. He overdosed. I don't feel like I had any cause in his death or any fault in his death. You charged me with murder, but I don't think if you take that approach, it doesn't come off good to the jury when they play that. This guy is coming off as humble and sorrow. Good move. If it's a move, it could be sincere. Who knows?
Did you and Officer Chauvin talk about it there in the ambulance bay?
I don't remember talking to him as far as we generally, our relationship-wise, we don't really talk much. We're a natural, quiet person.
Were you worried about this?
Personally, I was worried about it. Yeah.
Is that why you guys didn't talk about it? Because you knew that this was probably going to...
Yeah, this is probably going to be a big deal.
Oh, so because that wasn't clarified, and maybe they'll clarify it, is that why you didn't talk about it? So you're conspiring. So you know you did wrong and you didn't want to talk about it, right? Well, no, I didn't want to talk about it because it would be inappropriate to try and get our story straight, and it might have the appearance that we were planning and we did something wrong. I just didn't want to talk about it because I knew they'd probably be questioning us later, and normally they don't want us talking to each other. That's why we didn't talk. Make it look like you were doing it for the right reason. Don't let the prosecution say, because you knew it was going to be a big deal, didn't you? And you knew that you were going to be in trouble, and you didn't want to admit anything, and you didn't want to get caught. I hope they don't leave this just hanging out there like a big willy waiting to get stomped on.
Did you notify anybody else once you learned?
I did. I told Officer Chang that, hey, I'll let you know updates. Mm-hmm. And so I sent him a message saying, hey, give me a call. It's my work phone. Mm-hmm. So I could tell him that, hey, make sure this is now kind of a critical incident. You need to tell your sergeant. Call your sergeant, let him know what happened. And it's a critical incident. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of the extent of it.
So you gave him a heads up,
right?
But this can be something. Okay.
Generally, Minneapolis, the city, they won't really talk too much with the park, so I just want to make sure that he wasn't surprised or.
That seems fair. Have you since this incident had an opportunity to view any of the videos, especially maybe the main video that the bystander took?
I'd say I'd forward through some.
You what?
Viewed some, and not in its entirety.
Yeah. I mean, what are your thoughts on that video?
Oh man, I don't know if I'd let him go there. What do you mean? What is his thoughts? Do you have a specific question as to that? I mean, when you start getting into what you're feeling and thoughts, see, you're answering this question like you're just being honest. But unfortunately, you're making a statement of your state of mind, and it may not be accurate, and you may leave other things out, and you may have felt other things, and other things may influence that thought, it may have changed, etc. So to give a statement like this and lock yourself in, I don't think it's a good move.
Because like you said, you were facing the crowd, so you weren't really paying much attention, but that video is obviously paying a lot of attention on what Officer Chauvin and Mr. Floyd's interaction is, and I'm curious what your thoughts on that are.
Yeah, I'm curious, because I want you to sell them out. I want you to say you were offended. I want you to say that I would have never done that. I want you to say that they were wrong and I was appalled by their actions. I want you to become my witness and help me so I can throw you down. That's what I want from you. Man, this guy better think about this answer.
Can I ask a question while you're asking what the thoughts are? We don't normally put thoughts down in police reports. You give them to Summers.
Oh, finally! Thank you, brother. Shit! I'm paying you to be here. Finally. Good for the attorney.
Well, he's a human being. I'm just curious what his
I understand that
opinion is
he's here
on
to
it.
give a voluntary statement about what happened, not necessarily what his thoughts were.
Excellent. Good for you.
Okay. You don't want to answer that question? Is that what you're
I'm
saying?
advising.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll take his advice.
Sounds good.
That's the way an attorney protects you. He doesn't make you say, I don't want to answer that, because then it sounds like, oh, you're trying to hide. You don't want to cooperate. You know whatever you're going to say, we're going to use against you because it was wrong. You're trying to protect your officers that we want to charge with murder. You're trying to help somebody that we want. That's why you don't say, I don't want to answer that. That's why your attorney comes in and he can say, I'm advising my client not to answer that. And then you say, on advice of counsel, I'm not going to answer that. then you don't look like the bad guy. You don't look like you're being obstruction. You don't look like you have something to hide. You act like you're following the guy you're paying to protect you.
Do you think there was anything you could have done differently to intervene?
I'm in the belief that there's always something different you can always do in every single call.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to second guess, right? It's easy to look in hindsight.
Oh, he's coming off so nice. Yeah, it's easy. This guy's a good interviewer, man. I like this guy. I mean, when he first came in there, I thought he was doing pretty good, but the more I listen to him, he's pretty freaking good. And you know what? There's a lot of good investigators out there that know how to get shit, how to twist shit, how to seem to be your friend, how like, I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to get your side. I just want to have a conversation. I want to share our feelings between each other because we're all on the same team. Okay.
Have you thought about things like that and what maybe could have been done differently?
Yeah.
Like what?
Who could have predicted that as soon as he said you thought about things differently? Like what? Of course, that's a great follow-up question. It was a great setup question, and it was a great follow-up. Realizing anything you say you should have done differently with hindsight, with video, after all is said and done, anything you say you could have done differently, you can bet they're going to say, why didn't you do it differently? Why didn't you think of that when it was happening? Why? There's just no good end to this.
Well, I guess if we're being human, differently, I guess.
Silence, pause. Everybody's waiting. You know what? The attorney could jump in here and say, you know what? Obviously, my officer has hindsight, and we've got all this video, and with the outrage and the riots, obviously nobody wants that, and he wish he could prevent it. But he's already given you a statement that he was paying attention to the crowd. He was concerned about his safety. With the information he had at the time of the incident, when it was chaotic, he's told you what he's done. The fact on what he would do differently has nothing to do with a statement about what happened. I think the attorney probably should have jumped in here. Maybe he does. I don't know.
I guess,
there is no right answer here. No matter what he says, this is a wrong answer.
Would be more observant towards the Floyd.
Oh, so now you just admitted you weren't observant to Floyd. You were derelicting your duties of being observant when you should have. There's just no good answer here.
We're not kind of standing up and paying attention to traffic and maybe too focused on what guarding the scene.
Thank you. What effect has this whole event you've been through had on you personally?
How does this have anything to do with what happened in the incident? I'm here to give you facts about what happened. What do you mean, how has it affected me personally? You mean the fact that you're trying to charge me with murder because this is a politically motivated, because a guy went in and spent freaking counterfeit money, who had been a prior felon, who was out there committing crimes, carrying drugs, doing drugs, driving under the intoxication, fighting the police, and died, and now I'm being a scapegoat? You mean that part? How it affected me personally?
I'd say this is it's a horrible feeling. Obviously you don't ever want. You hope to go through your career never having to deal with a situation like this. When someone dies. It's affect my family and kind of taking it'd be fair to say it's taking a mental toll.
Yeah. Have you been in a critical incident prior to this?
No.
Mind if I ask you some follow-up questions?
Sure.
Okay. Earlier in the interview, you mentioned that your training was extended.
So now this is just one investigator. Now each of these guys. So they really get 3 bites at the apple here. They get 3 different interviews from you, 3 different focuses on what they want to focus on, and every one of them is trying to get you to mess up your statement. So basically they're re-interviewing. If I was the attorney, I would have went, we're going to give a statement. You guys need to decide who's interviewing, and one of you is going to interview. I'm not letting all 3 of you take a bite of the apple and come at my client with different angles. Y'all decide who's the primary, and he's it. When we're done, we're done. I don't think the attorney should have allowed this. Maybe the attorney's trying to set up incompetent counsel, or maybe he's thinking about his mother. I don't know. Rick, you can't say that. I'm just being honest here. All right, look, we're at 30 minutes. Shit, I got to go another part. All right, we'll end that there. We're going part 6, I think.